Last time, thank you.
I'm most gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful together to meet as a council tonight, and we're thankful for the opportunity we have to serve the town. We ask as we meet, we might be able to make the decisions which will be a benefit to all, and that we may be able to make wise decisions. And this we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, welcome.
There's your answer.
Yes. Welcome, Councillor Peavoy.
Thank you.
It's 5 o'clock, so you're right. It's back on time. Okay, we will bring this meeting to order. And it is the last meeting on this 10th of October 2017 for the present council. And wishing all those who are leaving us the best, and the same for all those who are incumbents.
That may be leaving us.
All the best to you on your campaign. We have our media today. Corey McCarthy for Channel 32, thank you. And in our gallery right now we have our Sergeant, Saint Seminaire. And we are going to ask you to come and give us your police report for the month of, the quarterly report, I should call it.
Sure. Good
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone. For the third quarter, we had 32 person offenses, 90 property-related offenses. The other criminal code number is way too high. I was having a sidebar chat with Richard about it. It's because of the Blood Tribe Police Service with their court tied in with ours, so that number is about 60 to 70 numbers too high. So it makes it look a lot favorable at around 95 instead of 158. Federal statutes, we had 4. Provincial statutes minus traffic, 348. Again, that includes all our national survey codes, criminal record checks, which always explains why that number is a little higher. Provincial traffic, 37. Criminal code traffic, 7. Collision, 17. And we lodged 153 prisoners in the court.
A lot of meals.
Sergeant Seminaire, do you want to give us a sense of your feeling of the safety in our town at this point? What is your feeling?
Well, after looking at the stats, I have a good sense of safety in the town and noticed a big difference, be it with the community peace officer. Now we have Sheriff Dave Payne is down here a lot more. Everything went in a favorable direction. Like again, I was chatting before a little bit. We only had 5 break-and-enters in the last quarter, which in my mind that's a healthy, improved number. So lots of small stuff still, though. I mean, unlocked vehicles being checked and stuff like that. We did identify the group that was responsible for that through a different avenue of an investigation. But once we figured out who it was, that kind of came to a dull roar. So from that perspective, things seem to be looking really good. So.
All right, so that is it's a happy report then for us. Are there questions? Yeah, I'm not you and you're not me. Thank you.
You look pretty today.
Councillor Bengry.
Did I hear you say Dave Payne is here now?
Just a second, Councillor.
Sorry,
Bengry had his hand up.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's with the
Pardon me?
integrated traffic unit at a Lethbridge.
So he's transferred down this way now?
Yeah. So we see
A local boy.
So we see them down here quite a bit more than
Oh,
we
that's
used to,
good.
so which is nice.
Okay, Councillor Bengry, Councillor Creed.
Sergeant Zane, it was interesting, your reply to the mayor when she asked if we have a safe community. The reason why that, I find that very relaxing. Because out there's this fear hanging over us, assumption that hanging over us that we have a real crime-involved community. And as I drive around and as I speak to your officers and our Brad, it's totally opposite. When I look at these stats, this is not a crime
No, and
related.
a lot of things too, like when you break it down, you look at things like with thefts and stuff like that. You get quite a bit of stuff like, it's all around solvent abuse. I mean, we see quite a few stats with, theft of hand sanitizers from the hospital, Recrest. It's lots of little things like that, so.
Yeah.
Just gonna mic you up there.
Essentially, those are the difficulty that we have. Are we starting to see fentanyl on the street or issues with those substances, or are we not in the conundrum other municipalities
don't
find
believe we
themselves
are.
into?
We see the solvent abuse and stuff like that. Like I said, we all carry Narcan, and I'm still glad to say none of us have had to use it, so.
All right, thank you very much.
If
Any
I
other
may, yeah,
questions? Councillor Peavoy?
Are there statistics that show, based on our numbers and then numbers in, I'm sure maybe in your RCMP stats, you have other comparative southern Alberta communities that kind of show where we sit as far as? Crime?
Absolutely.
Is
I don't
there-
have that with me, but yeah. I
No,
have
yeah,
that type of stuff.
I'm just wondering if maybe we couldn't get a report of some kind, no rush, but, just to kind of show that we want to remind people that the crime of Cardston is not excessive compared to other southern Alberta towns, if that's the case.
No, and that's something that I can bring back to Jeff too. And
That's great.
Chat about that type of stuff, so.
I think it might be time for a public press release on that issue.
Okay,
Zane, I just want to issue kudos to your department. Jan and I are out just about every night, driving around and watching. I see your officers are out every night, and they're going in the unmarked, and they're also in the marked vehicles, and it's good to see them. And they're all over the community. And so somebody tells me that we don't have police, RCMP, they're right out to lunch. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, and that, sometimes it works in two ways with that unmarked car.
Yep.
If it's out at night, we get called up suspicious white Suburban, which is so. As
With
much as
real-
we can,
with real bright lights.
we try to put the marked one out, so.
With real bright lights.
Yeah.
can I maybe ask you, Semeniak, another question? Now that we have a Peace Level 1 officer, how is the relationship with your department in terms of workload? That's what I'm trying to understand. Are we allowing you to have more ability to do other things, or
No,
are you compensating each other or helping each
No,
other?
I'd say
How does that
not that
work?
way, but I was just talking with Brad last week, and he was complimenting how it was positive working with us here. He didn't see that at his last job he had, and he was very happy that we had a good relationship where he can come to our office anytime if he needs help. We're there to help him out, and likewise, he's helped us out a few times too, so, especially when we had the fires going on, which was nice, so,
Okay, so you would call it a complementary relation?
absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
All right, thank you so much for that information, and thank you for all you do for our town. I mean, I totally appreciate knowing that we have services that allow our town to be a good, safe town, even if all is not perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you there. Yeah, sounds good. You too.
All right, we need to adopt the agenda. I failed to do so.
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Mayor Kronen.
There is an
There's an
addition.
addition.
I have one addition.
Okay, all right.
I'll withdraw that
So on
motion.
it's okay. On the 7E, we will have Delbert Mills' proposal as requested from administration to look into the details of the proposal. And Councillor Creed, can you tell me what?
Yeah, just one item in the confidential section under in camera, just the name for a committee.
Okay, so that is a committee name approval
Yeah,
under B, 12B,
With that, I will then move the agenda
as amended.
as amended.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. On the 6, bylaw and policy, 6A is a carriage house theater.
Adoption minutes.
Oh, did I miss the minutes? Man, I'm really pushing it and trying to get done with that. Okay, Councillor.
Mayor, we should have all had an opportunity to reflect on those minutes, so I make
I
a
haven't
motion.
seen the minutes on mine.
Oddly enough, they didn't come through on mine either, so they
I need
don't,
it.
on a couple of us.
I didn't get minutes, so
We may have to approve those minutes in the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah, or we'll print some off, and we can have a look here.
Maybe.
that'd be fine too.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
before I do that, then I'll,
So 6
All right, so
a.m.
let's.
so let's go to 6A.
I mean, honestly, I was inspired, wasn't I? But you know, it's funny enough because I have those minutes anyways.
Yeah, and
All
I
right.
have too.
So 6A, Carriage House Theatre and Selkirk First tax exemption. If you remember, 3 years ago, we gave those two property and businesses an tax exemption according to the MGA and according to COUNCILLORS. And if the people involved give us the proof sufficient to go on with that, we are mandated to give a tax exemption. And in that case, is no if but, is if the requirements are there, you must, as council, give the exemption. And so that's written in the legislation.
Now, I noticed, Mayor, one question on that. Have they presented a financial statement?
Yes, we do have it.
Okay,
I had them.
okay. And you're good with that?
Yes. In fact, I can tell you that this past year was actually a very difficult year for
Yes.
them because they did not receive the grant from the government that they normally have to run their operation. And so if you want to call it being in a hole by $70,000, that's what the public statement shows. Yes.
I'll make a motion, then we give the Carriage House Theater and Silk Purse the tax exemption for 2016?
No, it will be
18,
19,
20.
18,
19,
19,
20.
20.
If you choose 3 years.
Yeah, 2 years, yeah.
Yeah,
we do
it's
that.
3 years maximum.
I'll do the 3-year motion, and it because of the MGA and also copter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, there is something that I want to talk about before we vote on that one.
I just have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and I'm fully in support of the arts and the theater. Just a couple of questions. One, in the Jill's statement here, she mentioned that the property must be unrestricted more than, let's see, okay, a non-profit basis, and property must be unrestricted more than 70% of the time that it is used. And I just was curious what that
okay.
meant. Does that
All right.
does it mean free, or mean for anybody to use, or, you know, I just curious. You know, I know the school uses it some.
Jeff can help you understand that portion, but I also can tell you that they must not use the revenue
Right.
to come back to the shareholders. They must totally go back into the operation of the nonprofit. In other words, they must not draw salaries to compensate themselves. That is not the way it works. Jeff, do you want to add something to it?
Well, a bit ironically, just today I went into Jill and said, I need to understand this 70% a little better. So we just had that conversation about 2 hours ago. The current copter is not for the proprietary use of the shareholders, and that it is for the use of the public more than 70% of the time. So this isn't performances exclusive to a certain group, exclusive to shareholders, or those kind of things, that it's open for public consumption and use.
Yeah.
Which I would suggest it probably is 100% of the time from everything I know of the theater.
They're still allowed to charge rent though
Yeah.
for the facility.
Yep. for sure, as long as those revenues are supporting the majority of the revenues are supporting the benevolent purpose.
That's right.
Which 100%.
Which I would, again, assume that the majority are. Of course, they have staff that get paid. Somebody's putting on the show.
Sure, absolutely.
And so that's a reasonable expense to see there, for sure. The one thing, if I could, Mayor, that I just wanted to mention, I would suggest that if I could carefully suggest maybe a different criteria in the new agreement.
Yeah.
The financial statement from them is fine and well, but it really doesn't tell us anything about their nonprofit status.
No.
It just tells us they're a small business that has a financial statement.
That's what I wanted to
It gives
address.
no indication that they're a nonprofit entity. I would actually prefer the agreement to say that we get a copy of their annual return, which
Right.
actually shows us they are a nonprofit entity from the province. The financials, to be frank, don't do much for us.
Just tell you how much I made, how much I lost.
But that doesn't really mean they're nonprofit.
No, and that's what I wanted to address. So
Okay.
thank you for addressing that very specific thing. Now, the other point, Councillor Craig, the other point has to do with the timing of things and when it has to be presented. Then, the time at which they file their returns is September 30th. So they cannot have, at September 30th, those documents ready for us when they put an application. So in the old contract, if you want to call it this way, exemption form, we had November the 30th as a deadline. But it has to be applied by September the 30th. So we're obligated to go with that date, knowing that they could only give us the year before, because the current year, they don't have the return. But makes no difference, so long we have the year that they apply, like for example in 2020, if they give us a 2019 financials that are reported to the province, that will be sufficient for us.
Mayor, if you follow the backgrounder down on this motion 1436, I made in 2014 at our regular council meeting, and at the end of that motion, it says that by way of standing agreement, provided that the Carriage House Theatre provides proof annually prior to November 30th that they qualify for nonprofit organization status. So would that not
So this is what we need to have. Go ahead.
In the agreement, council determined proof is financial statements,
Okay.
which again, is fine, but it really isn't proof.
No.
It's good information, but it's not proof. That's why I'm suggesting the new agreement, we just make it a little more robust, and we just ask them for a copy of their annual return. It's not anything extraordinary to produce. They
No.
get one anyway, we just need a copy.
Right.
So I will include that in
Yeah.
the motion.
Okay, good. So,
That they
Councillor Green.
provide their return.
Right,
Yeah, just
annual return.
a couple more things that I just had questions on. I don't know, the application was the previous, this in our package is the
Right.
previous application. I don't know
Right.
if we have a current application or not.
They're both,
They're both here.
It is.
Oh, well, I see two.
It looks like a 4-page, but it's two 2-pagers.
It's, yeah,
I thought one was for the Carriage House Theatre, and one was for the Silk Purse.
And that's what they're applying for, isn't it?
So,
It's for the two buildings.
so it's basically one application for both.
yes,
Correct.
for the
Both
two
buildings.
buildings,
Okay.
yeah. It's the tax roll to
Yeah,
its
all right.
return.
And that is because they operate under the same nonprofit.
Right.
Okay,
So that's why, they're operating under the same numbered company.
okay. Well, they're both very similar.
Yeah.
I mean,
One's an appendage of the other.
there's not much difference between them, but on the part 3, it just says, does this organization have a retail or commercial area at this location? They've checked no, and what goods or services, NA, and then for what purposes the net income from the retail association used, and then they've got actually something there which kind of contradicts the first
Okay.
two, because they do show movies. I would assume that's a
They
retail
show,
or...
yeah, they show
service.
movie and they
But not
sell,
at the
and they
first.
sell,
Concessions.
they sell stuff at the concession.
So I'm just wondering if that needs to be amended slightly to make that correct, I mean, I don't think it negates the ability for them to receive the tax exempt.
Well,
That they have that.
They have to figure out a way to do it so that it does not raise a red flag as to those are revenues that should be taxed.
Yeah, I don't
They're paying
know.
their shareholders.
I'm thinking, well, I imagine
Yeah.
their revenues still go towards the foundation
Well, it does.
for those things.
Anyway, Jeff, can you look into this one with Alana? Hopefully, we can come up with something that's transparent, but clear also that it is not a source of revenue for the shareholders.
Yeah.
It does say in here, the question is asked, for what purpose is the net income of the retail commercial area used? And it says to offset operational expenses of the
And
foundation.
that's fine, but like I say, it's just a little contradictory to the first two.
No, it's not transparent enough, I hear you, I hear you.
Yeah.
I understand why they marked it that way, but, yeah,
Yes, and then
Okay.
the other question I had.
go ahead.
I can't remember what it was in the document. It says that the municipality may put a condition that if they terminate, that it should come back to the municipality.
Absolutely.
We didn't put that condition on, but I understand that when the building was given to, the silk burst was given to them, it was basically given to them for $1 or whatever.
Yeah,
So I wonder if it would, I mean, not
the exit plan.
that they are going to, and I hope that they just continue on, but I'm just wondering if that might not be good to just go ahead and put that condition in there, just in case something happens, that it will at least come back to the municipality should they be unable to continue. So that's a...
That's the exit plan, which 3 years ago, I questioned myself about that one too.
If I might, I get what you're saying. Here'd be my concern.
Yes.
And it's only because we're privy to their financial statements. There is a large shareholder's loan payable to an entity in the theater. If I was that shareholder, I would not agree for 1 second that if everything rolled up, the assets went to the town.
Oh, okay.
I want things,
To go
I want them to be sold, I want things liquidated, and I want my shareholder loan paid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, if I was holding that shareholder loan, you better believe that's what I want to see happen. And
Okay.
I would imagine that the company that has a shareholder loan and the numbered company that's nonprofit have that agreement.
Mhm.
Now, where I can see that more applicable is when you are doing straight lands. So if the town has lands that they're leasing or renting, or there's lands within the town that are given nonprofit status, the rolling up may make sense to go to the town, because they've waived all that tax, but I think you might have some difficulty on your
You're saying because
hands.
of all the improvements on the building?
Yeah.
There was an influx of cash from a loan.
That's right.
That has to
Well-
be repaid at some time.
Yeah,
And it is reflected in the financial statement.
Mhm.
You just need to go online, you
Yeah.
can see them, they're public documents.
I just think it would be troublesome to try and take precedent
Yeah.
over the shareholder
No,
loan.
okay.
When we don't have anything owing, per se.
Exactly.
Okay.
That would be something to consider.
No, okay, I wasn't aware of that, so.
And also, Councillor, is it not sort of too late to do that?
No.
It should have been done beforehand?
No, it could
In
be
the
done
initial agreement?
at any time, and,
No.
maybe if the time comes when the shareholder loan is paid off, that, maybe the town might look at that just so that it reverts back to, so that, make sure that that entity is always a public
Yeah.
facility that can be used by the community, just.
So I think to go back to a little bit before we vote, to make sure we have everything we need. On an annual base, we want to see the returns. The third year, we want to see the financial statement and the returns, because I will speak to your issue. And we also want the return in the third year to be brought to the town to be on the agenda for the second meeting in September, so that we have enough time to adjudicate the application before September the 30th. Let's not be always behind time. We need to have proper policy regarding that, or procedure regarding this, because if we had any other organization in town that require a similar status, we need to have one way of doing it.
Good precedent.
And I think if we have it set properly for one, the others will have to follow suit. Fair enough? Okay, all right, so let's vote. All in favor? Thank you. So administration, you made note of those
Yeah, I
points?
do, yep.
Thank you. And that will have to be part of the addenda to that contract. Thank you. 6B, Council Policy 615-3. As you could see, this policy is meant to replace Policy C-15-2, and the portion that is given to the administration in that policy is now divided up so that C-15-3 represent the portion that is in the realm of council, and C-15-2 will then be the source of a new policy regarding administration and communication. Does that make sense? The only thing that I kind of regretted is that we didn't have the changes highlighted.
Well, he does
But
have the.
if you are okay with that,
Yeah, it looks like he's just
oh,
moving
you
a couple
do?
of
Okay,
sections.
so that's what I had required, so that happens
He does
since
some
then.
red.
Okay, I don't see it here, but you got it, so it's
It
fantastic.
looks good. And
That
so-
was the thing that I had asked this morning, very early, it was very, very early in the night. When I was on, I thought, this is too complicated for me, I can't put the two documents face to face, and I can't compare them, so now you can, perfect.
So it's just crossed out.
Okay,
the things.
excellent, I'm happy for that.
I'm happy to make that motion to move to pass the policy number C-15-3, the council communication policy as amended here.
Okay, any questions?
Just a comment, just for council, because when we separated those policies, I made the point, I just want to reiterate the point that, you know, that the separation of the policies means that the administration policies don't have to come to council. You know, that these policies come to council. This one, you know, affects council directly, and of course it's appropriate. The other council, you know, for the administration communication, if council still wants to have, you know, some oversight of how the administration communicates to the public, because they do communicate to the public, council still may want to consider that as a council policy rather than an administration policy. Just wanted to make that point there, so that, you know, as you move forward, you can think about it.
Okay.
Anyway, I support
And
this.
it will directly relate to the way communication goes out to the public. So like, for instance, we're
Yes.
moving to the administrative side, that information will be provided by trained and knowledgeable staff in a timely and courteous manner.
Yeah,
And that's
which
something
will
we as a
be in the
council are
other,
interested
it
in.
will be in the other policy,
Right.
but I'm just
Right.
was saying, if the council still feels that they want to have oversight of that policy, they can still keep that as a council policy, so just wanted to make that point.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. Any other questions, comments? No? All in favor? Thank you very much. So we now have a council communication policy in place. All right, under 7, other business, there is a recommendation from CCW regarding the request for EPQ services. It was a donation of $1,500. Councillor Bengry, are you prepared to put that motion forward? That was your recommendation.
I am.
Thank you.
Let me see.
Where is this?
The only thing,
that's it.
the only thing that I was wondering,
Second.
Jeff, can you remind us the source of funding. It
Comes
was
out.
not a,
It comes out.
yeah, it was a donation under the donation ledger,
I
right?
have the GL in the
Okay.
background.
Right, that's it.
I make motion to sponsor or
Give a donation.
give a donation of $1,500 to come from the GL 272902 Grants General to the Epic Youth Services with the My Story program.
Okay,
One-time amount.
One-time donation, $1,500.
thank you. All in favor? Thank you. I didn't ask for a question because I think we were all
We
in
discussed it
agreement.
pretty good.
All right, so on the 7B, Alberta Health Services lease. This one has to do with renewal of the lease. Now, Jeff, you were going to try to find out if there was going to be a difference in the assessment of the square footage, the dollar per square footage.
Yep.
Can you give us an update?
Sure, I talked to Alberta Health this afternoon, they called me back. My question to them was, in the original agreement, it says upon second renewal, there was a number of paragraphs around if we agreed on the rate, essentially, and that there was an agreement that we would represent market value. So their position is, Cardston's a difficult one to determine the market value changes because there's not a lot of government lease here. So what we talked about is I'm going to provide them a schedule of utility rate changes over those 3 years, and they're agreeable to compensate for an increase in utility rates that we've seen in the building over that time. Because neither of us had any metrics to prove square foot lease rate change. The other risk of that is it may have gone down. So you have a risk doing a lot of evaluation, and it's not a bad amount right now. I didn't want to push the issue on the amount that much,
Okay, so
because it's a relatively generous amount for the space.
It's $8.86 per
Right,
square
right.
foot.
So we're almost $28,000 a year
Right,
for that space. So I wasn't trying to push the issue too hard, but they've agreed that if I can provide them with utility rate changes, they would entertain. That seemed reasonable to look at
okay.
in this one. So if council is prepared to agree to this, we don't have the final documents drafted, but I would just have a little clause in your motion that it's subject to agreeing to a suitable market
value.
Review
yes.
of
Market value.
market value.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Bengry?
Our fire chief, this goes through Councillor Barnes, because he serves on EMS. Is this space conflicting with our fire program because we have added, a water truck, and we've also added a command center? Is that interfering with some needed space by our fire department?
Well, Danny's never said anything at all to us. I'm sure you've talked to him about that, and he doesn't think there's an issue there, a problem. So, having said that, I guess I'd like to be prepared to make that motion that we go ahead and accept the proposed lease arrangement with the proviso that we look at the utility rates and add that in as to negotiate at that point in time, after we give them evidence that there is an increase.
Okay.
That make sense?
So essentially what you will, your motion is there to accept the renewal of the lease on condition of provisions for utility
Exactly. That's what I said,
rates
wasn't it?
changes. Yeah, perfect. It's good, just to make sure that that's
Yeah,
what
that's
you
what I'm
meant.
saying.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. All right, so 7C, Rotary Club of Cardston letter of support. If you remember, because of the time-sensitive issue, this item was sent to you through the email. The letter was drafted, so it's an after the fact at this point with your approval, and there was 5 approval, if I remember right, Jeff? Okay. All right, so essentially what we need to ratify that letter of support. So,
I will make sure that we approve the letter of support to the Cardston Rotary Club.
Okay, and that letter of support has all the proviso in it, so that we are not obligated if the grant is not forthcoming.
And I was just going to ask a direct question to administration. Has this been shown to them yet? Have they, the Rotarians seen
They
this?
had to have.
Yes,
it
they've
before
submitted it
the
with their
other.
application.
They have, so
Yeah.
it's, they're fine with these
Yeah,
conditions?
they seem pleased
Okay,
with it.
Perfect.
Yeah, it does not give a strong application because we have many conditions,
Right.
but I
And we
wanted
still
it.
hope the grant is
So I wanted
successful.
it, so still think
I
they
like
can
that
get the
sentence.
money. If they can, we shall see. All in favor? Thank you. All right, so 7D, Old Man Watershed Council. Now, if you looked at it, what they're requesting is for our continued support with an increase of about $180, if I did the math correctly.
40 cents.
So maybe something, it's about $180, something like that, which is not it's not a lot more. So,
Just a question, maybe again for administration. In your opinion, are we getting good value for this dollar? I know they get matching grants from it, but I just don't know if our municipality benefits directly from our contribution.
well,
That's a-
yes and no.
Yeah, for me, that's a tough one to put the finger on. You know, it's a good watchdog group, it's a good regional oversight group.
It's an
Have we
education.
called on them specifically in my time? No. I mean, they've come and presented to you as council, they've made you aware of their initiatives and what's going on. Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, Councillor Peavoy, if I can add a little bit to what you're saying. What they're doing an awful lot of education regarding watershed. And they are doing education on better use of water and how farmers are getting more savvy in the use of water through technology. And you can look at their video if you go and Google. Oh man, there's about 10 videos, snippets of about 7-8 minutes that I have created. All that is fueling that type of education. So, is that directly impacting us? Possibly not. But it is indirectly by education if people want to be educated. Okay? So, that's what it is.
I'll move that we continue to support the Old Man River Watershed Commission in the amount of $1,434.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. All right. The next item has to do with the request of Delbert Mills for the proposal that he has for Moses Lake. And if you remember, we wanted to make sure that we were following proper protocol before we get ourselves involved in such a project by supporting the grant application to Community Future. Community Foundation, sorry. I keep on calling it Future, but no, it's Foundation. And so here is a little bit of a release that Jeff gave me. It just happened at 3:25 this afternoon. So here it is. I'm going to read it. Councillor Floyd Bighead, who is a present councillor, I know him, called me to discuss the proposal of Mr. Delbert Mills. Councillor Bighead is a chair of the Blood Tribe Social Development Committee. He said that their committee is aware of the proposal and supports the project. He said that he would like to see the town support the grant application and that he will back up the town of Cardston should anyone question the motives of the town's involvement. He said there are no protocol or practices that that town would be violating, nor would the town be stepping on any toes. He thanked me for working, thanked Jeff for thanking with Mr. Mills, and said that he is very supportive of initiatives involving the blood drive and the town of Cardston. So Jeff's question was, is council satisfied that we have followed the proper protocol in order to go ahead? Those committees are set up by chief and council, and the councillors that are spearheading those committees are the chairs of those committees, at the difference of what we are. We are a reporter. For them, they have the authority. So indirectly, they have the authority of chief and council. So under that type of setup and structure and understanding how it works, I feel comfortable that we can give them support. So I need a motion.
Okay.
Councillor
I
Green.
will, okay, so just to make this clear before I make the motion, that basically the town will write a letter of support for the community foundation
Application
application
of Delbert
for Delbert
Mills.
Mills of the town. Doesn't have any other involvement particularly other than support,
Not at this point.
supporting his
Not costing
application.
us
So-
anything.
No.
So I will make the motion that the town support the application of Delbert Mills for the community foundation grant application.
Okay, to the blood club. Thanks. All in favor? Thank you very much. I'm sure we are making someone very happy today to move a project that will have great impact in their community. Financial report on the 8th, as you can see, is August 31st, 2017. Now here, Jeff, maybe help me understand regarding the campground revenues. They are maybe not all complete at this point because you have still September.
Well, actually, we don't have August in there, so we reconcile that usually about the end of the first week of the next month.
Okay.
So as that's at August 31st.
So what I was wondering, are we?
Yeah, they hit the ceiling, they hit their budget amount, yes.
Okay, all right, so I'm happy to hear that. And in fact, the pool last time was reported the revenue were down, but not according to this statement. This statement showed that they are up. So maybe the numbers were reversed.
Now you got me really thinking about
Well,
the
I
spreadsheet.
think the report you're talking to is compared to expenses, so revenue compared to expenses, but revenue itself was up, and then expenses were also up, so it offset.
Right, the revenue may have been up, but yeah, so were expenses, so the net was a
And-
little bit down. The cost recovery percentage
Yeah, so it was
was 3%.
61%
off, yeah.
Right.
instead of 65 or 66. Okay, all right, so that's good enough. Those were the only two questions I had. And the negative, if you remember, when you read those statements and you see in bracket a deficit, the deficit, you have to remember that that is what we report to the government that include the amortization for the year, right? So it would obviously show that because we would never tax citizens to recoup that. There would be over $1.5 million. That would be absolutely screaming high murder. Okay, so that's what it is, and I appreciate that to be like this, so it'll give us a sense of what it is that we are still chasing.
I find that the pool figures being so close are unbelievable. I mean, you look at it 184 and they're coming in at 180. Is that the final tally, Jeff?
End of August, yeah, it'll be pretty darn close.
Would it be? Yeah, and I'll tell you, that is really close. $4,000.
Yeah, well, on the whole, if you see the bottom line, I think we are doing quite well.
Absolutely.
Between actual and budgeted, it's really close. We're doing well.
We're not losing a bunch.
No, not at this point anyway, not on this report. So we need.
One question on, under the expenses there, disaster services indicates that the difference is that the DRP work was to be done in August and September. Was there any work actually done? I wasn't aware that
Might
anything
have to
happened.
do it in
so
the winter.
what happens there?
He had that note because the window was the last bit of August, 1st of September.
That's the normal window, right?
So we did not get DRP approval to do any more work.
Okay.
So actually, I talked to the gentleman from DRP 10 days ago, and they're considering letting us do the work over the winter because the water's so low in the Lee Creek right now, that we may be okay and can still work out of the winter. They still haven't given us an approval, but they're considering, if they do, letting us do it right away.
There's a possibility that it can
Yeah.
still be done, so that it still going to sit the same.
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
All right, so we need to approve those financials.
I
Councillor
will, move to approve the financial statements as presented.
For August 31st, 2017. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Thank you. And please thank Håkan for really a very clear presentation of his financials. I really enjoy reading them.
Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask administration, is our campground contract renewable every year?
Yeah.
How is that done?
That, my good counselor, is a great question. So I've been pondering on the campground contract. First of all, let me preface by saying, love the contractors we have there. It's such a worry-free thing for me. They just deal with things all year and it's great. What we did in there is we didn't, and in hindsight I think we probably should have, we have that it can be renewed at the agreement to both parties from year to year. But there maybe should be a time after so many years we almost need to take a step back and, reconstruct the thing, make sure it's working. So I haven't talked to the contractors yet this fall. They usually come, we usually start talking about now. And we need to decide how we want to look at that, because I think they're interested in going forward, and I have no complaints about the work they do there and the job they do for us. So I don't have a lot of reason to not want to do that again, but it is a good idea we're 6 years maybe now. It's not a bad idea to kind of take a step back and examine the contract wholly.
The reason why I asked that, Jeff, is because we're looking at more into the reunion center and expanding the campground and stuff like that, and our expenses and their expenses, the costs and services, and maybe the new council.
Yeah, well, I can speak to our margin on our portion has gone down significantly because we've converted so many sites over to the 50 amps.
Right.
And there are more to be done.
And with that, we've just seen our electrical bills go
Crazy.
way through the roof on that. And it's because they can draw that much more power, of course, so it only stands to reason why they've gone higher. So that's something we've got to consider, that
Raise our prices.
but that cuts into theirs and it doesn't eliminate their work.
Exactly.
So whether that's a fee structure change, whether we look at rates compared to campgrounds regionally and we have some room, that there needs to be something, there's going to have to be a bit of a move there so that it makes sense for the town to still operate it the way we do. It does now, and like I said, we have great contractors. No complaint there at all. And I want them to be happy with the contract, but we're seeing escalating costs.
Okay, Councillor Brown, Councillor Bengry.
Okay, I don't want to have a perception that we favor anyone over another, and, it's like our garbage contract every 5 years, whatever it is, we re-look at that too and put it out to bid, and maybe, that's something that we need to consider as well on that, because, the question down the road is going to maybe be asked, why is it these people get it all the time and nobody else has that opportunity? Not that they won't get that opportunity to do it again, right? Because they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And I've heard no complaints at all. I've talked to people from out of town that have gone there, and they say how nice these people are to them, and it's just cordial, and I mean, it's wonderful. you know, but maybe we need to look at those rate changes.
Yeah, I'm
If it's
thinking about
costing
that
us
too,
more
yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Maybe look at other campgrounds around the area and see what their charges are and, you know, see whether we're,
Yeah.
you know, in line with what's going on. Are we average, are we higher, are we lower, or what?
Right, and, you know, people who come in RV are not without means.
Okay, absolutely.
So I'm sure they can endure
You're
a
not
little
sure
bit.
what he's talking about.
I'm sorry for getting us off track, but it came up as I looked into the financial statements, and I know we shouldn't be discussing it, because it's not on the agenda,
No.
but
Should we put it?
I can appreciate it that I think this needs to be on the agenda for the next
Another
council.
meeting.
May I suggest a motion of council to direct administration to
Review the
review
contract.
the campground contract before it is extended for another year?
I'll so
Yes.
move.
I don't want to make any motions here,
No,
so
Councillor, you need to
I would just
work,
recommend that
you
direction
need to
come.
I'll make
work-
that recommendation.
Okay, so your recommendation is to direct,
Administration to look at the
review
contract.
the contract before
Review,
renewal.
yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, so under 9, committee and other reports. You have a peace officer report of September 2017. I am very pleased to see our peace officer taking a very active participation in community events. I think it's a good thing for him to come to know people and to come to feel more comfortable, and people in a town feel more comfortable with him. And I think that is a good thing. He is very thorough in his reporting, as you can see. So if you have questions, I cannot answer them, but administration might be able to.
Just one question for administration. I appreciate that our enforcement has gradually worked into citations. They started with warnings. They're starting to, I love how they warn on social media, specific things they'll be targeting that day. These are all great things. What I'm curious about is the financial implications of the fines and our anticipated budget for such. So we had in our budget that we would collect X number of dollars, and I'm just curious how we're doing. Are we keeping up on pace with that budgeted item? Or are we low? And if we are low, I understand this is our kind of our first year going in, and so that would be appropriate for this year. But I just don't know if we're, because I noticed like this one, total fees collected $2,000 something, where, you know, I'm pretty sure if that was kept up at that rate for 12 months, we'd be under budget for the amount we were hoping to offset on wages for this position and such. So any thoughts on that as far as, are we keeping up pace? Do we need to?
It's an interesting question. I hope you saw the Raymond Councillor forum, and you might understand how people feel.
Sure.
I was actually looking, there was some discussion about this 2 meetings ago. Councillor Barnes, I think you brought it up. And so my anticipation was we would have this discussion at the budget time about what we should be budgeting, because I haven't pulled that yet. I'm actually not a big fan of the computer-generated report that puts out. I think I like Brad's synopsis at the beginning, don't get me
Yes,
wrong,
that's
that's
what I
good.
like.
And after that, I kind of trail off. It's a bit spread out. One of the problems with that report is it talks about the dollar amount of fines levied, but we don't turn around and plug in what the province collects and then sends to us. So it tells you the dollar value levied, but it does not tell you the dollar value collected.
Right.
Because it's always delayed 90 days, 120 days, it's down the road. I left my detailed financial report down on my desk, and that would give me where I'm at budget to actual, so I can find that for you very quickly. My anticipation is that we are going to come in a bit under. And it was based on a couple of things. One was a transition from Will to Brad, so we kind of started over in late spring. And Brad has been, even last week, he didn't issue a fine all week. He just gave warnings, because he's still meeting, there's still first time people he's meeting, there's still first time he's enforcing things, and so he's trying to be cautious. But what I'll do is I'll try and grab that before we go home and give you some idea where we're at. Definitely it'll be part of the budget conversation in 2 weeks too.
Well, and yeah, the reason I ask is because maybe we as council need to lower our
Yeah,
expectation of
yeah.
what that number is. Otherwise, we need to count on him to bring that up, which again, that's politically
Yeah.
risky.
You have to make the right call between informing, warning, and citation.
Yeah. I sat in on, Brad had a meeting with a resident last week because they were in violation of a bylaw. It wasn't a provincial statute, but a bylaw. And so there was a fine attached. And he said to the gentleman, he said, our goal with bylaws is compliance, not punishment. So if we can just get this corrected, we can forego the fine. And I thought that was a good comment. He said the goal isn't punishment and revenue here. The goal is compliance to the bylaw. And so he's been trying to err on that side quite a bit. You know, for context, when he came from Cold Lake, he would come in the mornings and his supervisor would say, have this book filled by the end of your shift, see you later. Yeah. That was the plan. He had a fine book and it had to be complete, so it was 50 tickets. Had to be issued at the end of the shift.
Oh my.
And so he's enjoying this reprieve from a mandated amount of fines. I would suggest that in a community our size, that would be an onerous amount of fines by a long way. But, so yes, there's been some caution. I will look before we go at the budget to actual on that. I have it sitting on my desk downstairs, and I'll get you that answer. Thank you.
If we can bring the population in our town to understand, be compliant, we will have done a great job.
Jeff, when we looked at our two people in place, how long have we got Main Street Malcolm on?
That'll start, I mean, the weather's still good, so I haven't put a hard date on it because it's so weather permitting, really. And he's good to go as long as we need. But obviously he'll be around for animal control throughout. But yeah, we're going to start having some of that conversation as the weather turns on us, how much time should we focus down there. I haven't put a hard date on it simply because of weather. We can have some beautiful falls where it can sock in on us and we're done.
Right through the end of November.
Yeah.
Good.
Jeff, can I ask you a question? I do not recall, and maybe you need to help me a little bit here, Malcolm's contract.
Yeah.
Is it a yearly contract? What kind of type of contract does he have?
It was a 1-year fixed contract. This was a trial basis to see what we thought, what the value of that position was with the current set of responsibilities.
So when is it?
That was done
in
April?
March? April, March?
Yeah.
End of March would be
Yeah.
what I have in mind.
Yep.
So that's correct in my mind.
Now, there is
Because I
flexibility.
hear rumors on the street, interesting rumors, and I'm thinking,
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to fit what I remember,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, there's flexibility within the contract. It's not a set amount of hours a week
Okay,
either.
all right,
So,
yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Creed, Councillor Bengry.
Okay. Yes, just a funny question, but you mentioned the computer-generated report. I mean, I'm the same way. I love his little paragraph that he
the
tells us.
rest is a little bit.
And the graphs aren't bad, but there's two graphs in there that are totally useless to me, because all they've got is numbers.
Oh,
Warning.
the provincial statute numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got
Yeah, I
numbers,
hear you.
so they
I hear
don't
you.
tell me.
For him, he knows exactly what that is, so when he
Yeah.
plugs in, oh, it was a 128C.
I don't know if that could be changed or not, but.
Yeah, I'm not crazy. I like Report Exec. It's an awesome piece of software for him for what they do.
Yeah.
No question.
Uh-huh.
But not crazy about the reports. We've still got to find a happy medium there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lloyd had those bar graphs.
Kind of
and
long
that
for his
was-
old Excel spreadsheets. He just told the story.
It told a lot.
I know.
Okay, Councillor Bengry.
Jeff, this is just on a sort of a sidebar, but I've always called him Main Street Malcolm. Do you feel that the vehicle he's using is appropriate? I mean, it's a very poor advertisement for the town.
Well, he's on foot on Main Street, so that doesn't bother me
Yeah,
too much.
But he uses that, his own truck, doesn't he?
No, that's just an
Is that-
old.
Is that one of the?
It's an old truck we have. No, there is a white truck that is coming. So when we outfitted the new truck for Brad, then we took everything off of the old bylaw truck. That replaced the truck in wastewater.
Wastewater, yeah.
And that is getting some repairs done on it prior to it being used for animal control. So that red truck is gonna find itself back out, but right now it's a truck. And we need to get it gone for winter, it's not four-wheel drive,
And
that's the other problem with it.
We're gonna
So-
get some markings on it for.
Well, so there's a bit, this goes back to the conversation we had last year, if we're gonna mark that vehicle. It wasn't our intent to mark the vehicle, because the intent, it wasn't the intent at the time, because again, it may not be a permanent position. And so I wasn't crazy about marking it and lighting it and doing all those things.
Could I have a
until-
decal in them?
I mean, we can put some magnetic decals for sure, we can do all that, that's no problem.
I think
But
that would be maybe better
Yeah.
for the town.
I've been cautious to deck it out as another peace
No.
officer
Right.
vehicle.
But just a decal with identifiable.
I'm suggesting, with some little bit of background, that maybe just some decals gives him just a little bit more of authority. We don't need a light bar on it, we don't need,
Maybe just to
flashers and stuff
identify
like that, but maybe just some decals that says that he's Main Street enforcement or whatever, or bylaw, animal control, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's close,
He wears marked clothes, the
Uh-huh.
town wears clothes,
Right.
his coat and his
so I mean,
shirts.
it's not as if there is no sign that is working for the town.
Yeah. But I agree.
But
Yeah.
when they come, when they see him coming in that vehicle, they'll know it's him. And he has a very good rapport around town. I'll tell you, the comments that I get from down on Main Street, they like him down there.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy with a tough little position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, he's driving around Dennis Wilson's old truck we bought for $500, that's true. So,
All right.
it's what we have right now for him to drive.
Well,
right?
you know,
Saving measure.
good for him for not being offended with this truck.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Councillor Edmonds.
I'm still getting complaints from citizens about our unsightly
Premises.
around
Yes.
town that we've issued warnings,
Umpteen
but
dozen.
nothing seems to improve. And
Okay.
they're wondering, why don't we just find these people and get it over with and get something settled?
Sure.
And,
You know, I notice this building down here now has an old trailer next
Yeah.
to it. Are they gonna do something with that?
The difficulty is how do you inform the public of the legal position you're taking with a resident? So this is a complex issue
Yeah.
with multiple changing title holders, with notices, with legal implications. How do you appropriately inform the public about that? In my opinion, it's not appropriate to inform the public about that. And so, yes, things are happening, the trailer is part of what's going on. There is still an order on the home. Before you go in and demo a house, there needs to be some court injunction. So there's a few things that have to happen there, because that's a serious consequence
Okay.
to someone. So there's that trick, right? I've had some questions from people as well about, why aren't you just gonna go find this guy? Well, for example, we could not get the title holder to contact us, or pick up their mail, or respond to notices for months. So it proves difficult, because they haven't been served now, right? They haven't been served with the notice. And so we've got some progress there. We now have communication with the property, and there's some dates and things going on. But yeah, it's been incredibly slow, no
Yeah.
question.
But there's some other sites around town
Yeah.
that sort of look the same,
Yeah,
Jeff,
and people are wondering why.
yeah.
Jeff,
Okay.
could we maybe release a piece of information regarding unsightly premises and explain a little bit the steps that need to be taken in order to get resolved? That legal issue that you're talking about, without mentioning any property, but the regular steps that need to be taken and the length of time it might involve. So that if they want to find result overnight, it won't happen. As much as I would like it to. I don't know. Or maybe I can address that in a mayor letter to the citizen somewhat. Maybe that's something I could address, that if it appears that we are not doing anything, it's not a fact. We are, but it's lengthy and complex. Maybe that's all what we need to say.
And my worry with a measure like that, not only do you inform the public how difficult
Inform
it
the
is,
offender.
you're informing the offender of what they can get away with.
Yeah.
For
No,
considerable
I
months.
don't want to talk about all that. What I
Right.
just want to say is that when you start to open a file, that file will take a lot of time before resolve can happen. It might need to take legal steps that make the process even more difficult and lengthy,
Right.
because courts might be involved. That's all what
Yeah.
I want to try to say, is that send a message that we are not ignorant to the fact,
Right.
but the legal aspect of serving a notice to a landowner or property owner is complex, and results are slow because involving legal and court action, potentially. What else
Follow
can
up
we
on
say?
Councillor Edmonds, we have other unsightly premises, and it doesn't seem like any action is being taken on any of those.
Well, maybe
And
you want to
I'd suggest that, you know,
talk
one
to
of us-
administration.
yes, and now I'd also like to ask administration about comments for the 30-kilometer zone all the way down 4th Avenue. I mean, if I start up at the school, at the end of the school, I can be almost asleep by the time I get to high school at 30 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering
It is what it is.
why we did that, and has it reduced, has it helped? You know, what's the situation with that? Because you don't take a whole city avenue and reduce it right down to one speed.
It has happened in Waterton. Have you tried Waterton?
Yeah.
Yeah, Warrington is a whole lot different than Cardston.
A lot of people, same thing with a lot of kids.
My suggestion is that I don't mind it at all. Honestly, we have 3 other avenues to go down. If you don't like 4th Avenue, go first, second, or third, you can go
Exactly.
50 all the way.
Exactly.
You know, except where if there is a particular playground zone there on Third. But I go on that and I feel quite comfortable driving on it. Maybe I'm getting older and enjoy the slower pace, but I think it's a good thing for safety, because there are so many
There's a lot of
public
kids.
areas along that road.
Yeah, there
That's
are.
my feeling.
My
And
point
I've
of view,
explained that to people, because I've had that question asked many times already too.
it was done, and we discussed it at the table, it was done for safety.
Yeah.
Because once people are at 50, they forget to go back to 30.
Mhm.
And I would say I would have been one of those in the past. Now I put it on my speed cruiser and 30 it goes. Anyways, good question. But maybe the result is that we need to be careful. All right, so let's move on.
You don't have to
9B.
approve the report or anything like that, eh?
No. 9B, committee reports. Small Communities Newsletter. I really would say take time to read those reports. They are quite informative.
Yes.
Thank
It's
you.
just the minutes that we were controlling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay?
I had a question on that one. Is it the plan to attend the January Lethbridge Muni 101?
Yeah, the Munis 101,
Yeah.
which be in Lethbridge the 8th and the 9th of January, am I correct? Good
That's
memory,
right, that's
it's not
right.
bad, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so essentially what I feel we need to do is leave it up to the next council. And what you will see is that the training we will get from Jeff and from CUF will be more governance. This is more all-encompassing. I know it's $200 per councillor, but at $200, if it allows you to kind of firm up your knowledge, your understanding, and give you more breadth, maybe not a bad thing to do for council. The only things that I would say is that in a mix at the next council table will be some people who are working and might not be truly possible for them to take 2 days off.
Is it an online availability at all?
No, you
No.
go, it's they have received the authority from the government to offer municipality 101 training, which was now enshrined in the MGA.
I guess we'll have to just talk to the next
So
council,
that
see
will
who is
have,
available.
yeah, we will have to look at it at that point.
One of the points of interest I saw jumping in there was that the covered collaboration, and
Yes.
the county will be at the table. You
Yes.
can make a point of sitting near with,
Well, they might
Shuffle
choose to go,
between.
they might choose to go at that session, they might choose to go somewhere else,
Right.
and you don't know.
right.
Okay?
There's one other question in this
Yes.
regard here. When is the orientation for new council going to be in Claresholm?
It's going to be
November
November the 2nd,
Hold on, let's
3rd,
pull it up.
November 3rd, I
So it'll be
think.
prior to AUMA?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's a
November,
one-day thing too, right?
yeah. I think it's the 3rd, November 3rd,
That was
yeah.
pulling my calendar.
Okay,
Actually, it'll be on my phone.
maybe I have it on mine too.
November 2nd.
Oh, 2nd.
9 o'clock.
Okay.
And that's at the Claresholm
That's
Town
Golf
Hall?
club, I think? Yeah, golf course.
Pardon me?
Golf course.
The golf course, okay.
All right, okay, so let's carry on. 9B2, Alberta Southwest, and
And that's just there for information, nothing specific that's jumping out as needing attention, so.
there was only one item in the minutes. I'm trying to recall. There's a motion that you made, Councillor Peavoy, inside there. Can you tell me exactly what it is all about?
Yep, let me just pull it up here, 1 second.
Because honestly, I couldn't quite understand.
So the 2-year project priorities for the CARE grant, is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have sorry, it's not 2-year, it's year 2 of the CARES grant. We have, I think it's a
okay,
4-year program.
okay, okay.
And as a committee, we had to approve the year
Yes.
2 budget
Yes.
for that, but there are
Okay.
still 2 more years. that
Yeah,
will be-
I get you. I couldn't understand what CARE 2 meant.
Yeah, yeah.
It meant the second year
It's
of the
the-
CARE
yeah, the
program.
second year of the
Okay,
4-year
okay,
grant.
all right. Good enough. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, so correspondence, we have the letter from MLA Grant Hunters that talks about the recycling, saying that he's keeping it on his radar. Under B, Alberta Municipal Affairs, the grant approval for one of our projects. And C is something that administration
Development report,
Well-
can we go over that, or?
will do, but before we go there, we need to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 26th. So let's go back.
I move to approve the minutes
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
September 26th
I
council
didn't
meeting.
see anything when I read them.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead.
I want to go back to this,
Okay,
Yes.
we on the minutes.
we have to pass
Are
this.
are we ready there?
yeah, I've read those. I
Okay,
got them on.
so, all in favor? Thank you, so the minutes are approved. Okay, Councillor, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to go
ahead.
back to the letter from Municipal Affairs,
Right,
where they've approved the $60,000
Right.
for street paving.
right.
What is that repaving, Jeff?
Excuse me.
Tell me about that, because $60,000 isn't going to cover a whole lot of paving.
No, but it was a portion of a multitude of
Actually,
funding.
that specific one was, we had what we called miscellaneous paving priorities this year. So it basically paid for the asphalt for the little places all around town,
Oh, okay.
is what it was. So we had a bunch of little pieces all over, and that's what the total amount was. So again, with these grants, I don't quite understand the system, but we've had this money in approval for months. And then for some reason, 6 months later, they like to send us letters about it. I don't really know what triggers it from the province.
You're
but-
getting this funding that you already got or something?
And almost, I would say 90% of the time we've spent it.
Yes,
When we get the approval letter, the project's done and the money's spent. So it's a very strange timing, but yes, that one was specifically all the patching and small projects around the town.
Thank you.
all right. Okay, so the last
Did it include the
item.
trailer park area?
Did
No.
not.
Jeff, you ought to be with me with this one,
Yeah.
because it is,
Well, if I ought.
Services like bake bread and places like that.
What's that?
it is,
Services like
Do you want to do
bake
some
bread.
pictures?
Oh, yeah.
Places like that.
it is.
Yeah, oh,
Up here on-
yeah,
up
right.
here on Third
Sure.
Avenue by,
Yeah. Okay,
It's nice that the government financed that.
yeah.
what's about time.
Okay,
Councillor Edmonds.
What's going on here?
councillors, we have
Not bake very much.
a little bit of a recognition for each councillor. So Councillor Edmonds, if you'd like to be there, we're going to take a group picture. Thank you so much for your work and dedication this past 4 years. And I had informed Jeff that the frame better be good.
One time, I used some kind of cheaper frames.
Are you gonna get it?
I heard the end of it. 3 years.
Yeah,
You want me in there or just?
yes, absolutely, you should
There we
be.
go. Nice.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's a nice ring.
So I was impressed when it showed me what it did.
Yeah,
These might end up on our walls with family photos.
Whatever. after this,
Shem,
it's-
maybe the cameras.
The Peavoys.
Councillor Peavoy. Thank you so much. Thank you. And there we go.
Where are you going with this? So we have the flags in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Cool. Now you gotta find a wall big enough for it.
In my office, that's all in my office,
Councillor Bengry.
Councillor Bengry.
right next to the master's degree.
Thank you, but that's perfect. Yeah, I was impressed, I must say.
Now I have to spend good money on the master's frame.
Yeah, so match that.
Thank you so much, Councillor.
Thank you,
Thank
Mary.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
There we go. Take your flag. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
Councillor Creed.
Well, thank you, Councillor. There we go. There we go.
Well, does that camera have good resolution?
Quality.
Seems to do very well
Here's
here.
how I got the green and blue.
Thank you.
Better camera.
Councillor Barnes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is this in recognition of all the static you give the mayor? Councilor?
Well, that too.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Councillor Peavoy, you're the deputy. Why don't you give this one?
Oh, to the mayor,
mayor?
yes. That's an honor.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
Still fitting in?
Wasn't expecting that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
So
and,
Councillor Barfuss will get it to
Yeah, we will,
me at some point.
we will
He
do
doesn't get one,
that.
he's on.
If he ever plans to come back to this building. Avoid it, give it a wide berth for a.
He seems to have big delegation plans.
Oh, good, that's good.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah, he's only going to be an activist now.
that's what he told me. He's gonna be all over things, so.
thank you so much.
You get to
That's-
say things you can
Yeah.
not say.
It has been a pleasure to work with you all, and I feel that when I look at our strategic plan and what we intended to do, we have really made some good progress towards all the items that we wanted to work on. And I really think the feather on our cap with administration is to have worked on a governance model that will be an amazing legacy for the next council. They'll be coming at a table and be able to run with it, because making decision will be much easier once you have all the policies, the protocol, and the procedures in place the way they have been put in place at this point. So thank you and kudos to you all for having allowed me to accomplish my little dream. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've done a lot of good. So at this point, we need to call a meeting.
Yeah, I'll move to recess and for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
get a few things ready. We got Mayor, I've got that cake downstairs.
Right. And we're going to go in camera, and the reason we go in camera is to finalize our CAO contract. And the other one is to deal with names for committee. Thank you.
If we're doing that, we put a little spot for initials now.
Thank you, it's perfect.
Yeah, the mayor just brought in a cake we'll dish up while we're on camera and have some of that, spoil your dinner.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Shem and I will be back with that, and I'm gonna grab that budget to actual on.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, did we vote on?
Oh, should we vote? We all in favor?
Yeah. All in favor?
Oh,
For the recess.
And